everything you need to know. It's impossible to avoid scams these days. They're everywhere. So I think this is important that we all listen to this today. Um, because some of you are watching at home, just a few things to note. We will be recording this seminar so that we can post it and you can watch it or share it with friends. If you are at home, if you have a question or a comment, you can just move your cursor around and there's a Q&A box where you can still type in anything that you need to say or ask. And we will be monitoring that throughout. And our speaker is happy to take questions as we go. So don't wait, just write them in as soon as you have them, and we'll do our best to answer everybody's questions. So now we're going to go ahead and start the recording. Okay. I'm Martha Shapiro. I'm the Director of Programs here at Senior Concerns, and I'm happy to introduce our speaker today, all about scams, everything that you need to know to protect yourself and your loved one. Our speaker today is Erica Escalante. Erica began her career in 1995 as a computer network engineer for a brand new Oxnard Police IT department. In 98, she attended the police academy and joined the ranks of sworn officers. For most of the last 16 years, Corporal Escalante worked as a detective in the Family Protection Unit and then became a fraud detective. She's currently the coordinator of the Financial Abuse Specialist team of Ventura County, providing senior services through a financial literacy and scam prevention program. She also continues her work with the LGBT plus Aging Coalition, giving awareness trainings to caregivers and service providers. So thank you so much for joining us today. Now you can hold it or clip it, however you prefer.
Ready? Thank you, Martha. So we'll talk about how to scam-proof your life today. Okay. I think Martha gave a good introduction to me. I don't want to spend too much time on that after the thorough introduction Martha gave. We've known each other a number of years because I was working in the elder abuse arena most of my time, both in the Family Protection Unit and also in the fraud unit. So I did the first Internet Crimes Against Children detective for the Oxnard Police Department as well, from my experience with computers. I did that for child exploitation and also later for fraud and scams. And I spent most of my career as a detective. Of my 26 years sworn, I was at least half of that a detective. So when I retired, they asked me to head up the financial abuse specialist team group, and we hold monthly meetings with all different service providers for older folks to combat financial abuse against older folks and dependent adults as well. But we are going to talk about scams today, but I think older folks get a bad rap, right? Always the older folks falling for scams. No, not so. More younger folks, all those tech savvy younger folks, they actually fall for more scams. They just don't have very much money. So they might lose $100, but a lot of them will fall for a scam. And then they really freak out because, their phone's their life. So their whole online presence, they have to figure all that out. But they're pretty good at it. So, but the problem for older folks is when older folks fall for a scam, they really fall for the scam. And they usually have money in the bank because we all had to save up for retirement. And so we have a nest egg or something, and then we lose it in the scam. The older folks will lose a lot of money. On average, it says 1,674. This is probably from 3-4 years ago. So with inflation, might be up to 3,000 on average. But the problem is it's usually a lot more. Like a lot of people might fall for a scam once and then realize it, talk to somebody, get help to close it off and learn their lesson and hopefully not be too embarrassed and tell their friends so they don't fall for it too. That's probably the typical. Unfortunately, some older folks really get involved with the scam and no one can convince them it's a scam and they lose all their money. They lose their house. They lose their friends because they borrow money. Their family, is at their wits' end. And that's the really sad story. And that happens too often. Like even once is too much, but it happens to quite a few older folks. So that's what we really want to try to avoid. So has anybody here been like actually scammed and like maybe you sent some money somewhere and said, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have done that? Or, yeah,
My husband.
your husband did? Yeah.
Screen share.
Oh, a text scam. Yep. Yep. So,
He's screen share. Okay,
Oh,
the
I
name of it that came through is Bank of America, the logo's on there.
okay.
It's not Bank of America. They're so smooth, they say, there's been fraud on your card, don't worry, we've already canceled the card and we're sending you a new one. Blah, 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 blah. And then it looks like he's approving all these transfers because the screen share was done. So the money and the wire transfers, how many is?
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Thank you for sharing that.
He's about ready to do the same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
And I grabbed the phone and he threw his coffee on me and then he punched me and I have the bruises to show.
Oh, no. Well, thank you for sharing that.
And tell them what, my husband has dementia.
Well,
They already reported it, the social worker already came.
okay. So work with the Adult Protective Services social worker and hopefully can get something to protect your financial well-being as well as your physical well-being. Yeah. But this is exactly, thank you so much because you'd made my job so easy. First, you explained a way a real scam in real time works. So somehow or another, the bad guy convinces someone to, give some, like they install a link, hit a link, install some kind of sharing program on the computer. Now the bad guys can see what's going on. They tell them, open your bank account. Now they get your bank account credentials. And then they go in and start doing the transactions. And then they can also like put up on the screen, kind of like the people at home right now, we're screen sharing the presentation. So they could screen share something so that you can't see that they're doing those transactions in the lifetime, right? So they're very sophisticated and convincing. And anybody could really, if you listen to, this is the key thing, if you listen to what they're saying, you could fall for the scam. If you believe what they're saying, because they make it sound important, scary, an emergency, you got to do this right now. And then the person does it and then doesn't realize they lost all the money till maybe the bank reaches out or a statement comes or something. Well, next point you brought up that was really important. Once someone falls for a scam once, that they go back. They're going to try to scam the same person again. They fell for it once. You know, they're going to fall for it again. And it's true. It's more likely the person will fall for the scam again. So they always try. Even if you follow every bit of advice I'm going to give you today, which includes if you don't know who's calling you, don't answer the phone, right? And it's like I used to investigate in the family protection unit. I would investigate serious predators, stalkers, all that stuff. Well, the fraudsters are the same way. So if someone was a victim of stalking, I would say you cannot answer the phone because you answer it once. Now, after they called 100 times, you accidentally answered it once. Now they know, oh, I got to call 100 times. Then they'll answer. Same with the scammers. You answer it once, they're going to call more and more and more. And I've done this not on purpose, but just every once in a while, you know, you pick up your phone and answer it without even realizing sometimes and realize, oh, it's a number I don't know. I really don't know who's calling me. And then they say whatever. And I'm like, nope, goodbye. And sure enough, for like 2-3 weeks, I will get a lot more calls from unknown callers because I answered it once, even if I didn't listen to them. Because sometimes, you know, because it like does some connection to a computer or something, and you can hang up because you know, oh, that's not legit. Yes, it'll look like it's from somewhere, but it's not actually that place. Yeah, they can fake out who's calling. So that was another good point. And then a third really tragic point you brought up was I don't know how your husband was before in terms of temper and that, but the people that fall for scams, it puts a lot of emotional stress on them and they're gonna maybe act in ways they wouldn't normally act and have bad behaviors. They can become suicidal and all kinds of things, especially when you combine it with cognitive decline, you know, dementia, Alzheimer's, medications, all those things play a role and can really cause people a lot of distress. And not just that individual, but the family and the support system for that person. So thank you so much for sharing because you made like every point. I can leave now. But I'm sure some of you know other people. Well, you weren't the victim of it. You were a victim because it affects you a great deal. But other people that maybe haven't had that directly so much, but you know somebody that had a scam. Yes.
Like one of my friend's son, young fella,
Uh-huh.
he actually suicide after going into the scheme.
Yeah.
He was
I
afraid.
can't hear you.
She was saying that someone she knew, a friend's son, committed suicide after getting involved with the scam. Yeah. And like I said, these scammers are predators just as much as the sexual exploitation people. And sometimes the scammers, then the romance scams, they get images and videos of people in compromising situations. And that does lead a lot of, especially the younger folks, to go to the length of committing suicide. But it also happens to the older folks. They get very depressed. They run out of money. They can't provide or even take care of their own selves. And they also will become suicidal. So this is a very serious topic, not just for financial health, but just overall health. Yes, sir?
I think we're both trying, your hand was up first, go ahead.
Yeah, for a number of months now, 2, maybe 4 times a month, I get a call from this young lady. You know, she sounds like she's very young. And she says, well, I'm calling about from a company with home improvements,
Mm,
or they're selling something, they want to sell you
mm-hmm.
something or something with an automobile or something like that. But I swear it sounds like the same young lady
Mm-hmm.
who keeps calling now for a number of months. Sometimes I answer the phone and I'll wait 3 or 4 seconds and then finally she speaks.
Yeah, that's
Other-
when you can hang up because you know it's not legit if it takes that long for someone to talk to you when you answer the phone.
Other times she does,
Can't necessarily hear the questions.
Oh. Oh, okay.
other times all of a sudden then she answers, but I swear it's the same young lady that's been calling for a number of months, but it's a different company
Mm-hmm.
that she
Well,
represents. And after 5, 6 seconds, home improvement, I just deed,
Yep.
and it's gone. Because I live in subsidized housing for seniors. What the hell are they calling me for?
right.
I don't even,
So you know it's a scam.
well,
Yes.
yeah, but I wonder,
It's obvious it's a scam.
do these, is there some way to catch these people if you would engage in a conversation with them for a number of minutes and write something down that they say and report it to the authorities?
Not really, but we'll get to that. I like the points you made about you answer the phone, you know, whatever number's calling or some company name maybe shows up, but you're not seeking that service. So right there, okay, that's a red flag scam. Next, you have the pause between answering and when someone talks. Third one was same voice. Well, you know, computers can make the voice. So
No, I didn't think about that.
yeah, so it could be a computer generated voice. So I would definitely say those are three big red flags. You just don't even need to answer. If you engage with them, you're putting yourself out there, you're putting yourself at risk. Like if you knew, it's just like if you know someone drank too much, are you going to ride in the car with them just to prove a point? No, you're not, because that's stupid. You're going to get in an accident and you're going to get hurt. You would not do that. You would take the keys. You wouldn't say, oh, I'll ride with you. And then when we crash, I'll tell you, look, I told you so. You wouldn't do that. So it's the same thing with the scammer. Don't engage with them because you're just putting yourself out there. It's not worth it. It's probably computer generated. These people, you know, they're in another country. Sometimes they're being like held human trafficking. They're trapped in this thing and they have to do these calls all day, you know, and it doesn't really help or hinder what's happening overall in the world. It's just not. So it's not worth it to try to do anything about it. But we'll talk more later about maybe some investigative stuff towards the end. And did you have
an
a
example where a neighbor, I live in a 55 plus community, and we heard that a neighbor was scammed out of $10,000. I realized that I actually for moments saw the person. So I got a knock on my door that I didn't answer right away. Then I see a guy walking away. So I said, oh, hello. And this guy had such an engaging smile. Hi. And before I shook his hand, I said, do we know each other? He said, oh, my son and I are working on driveways. Do you have any work? I said, no, thank you. And but we got word through the property manager that one of the neighbors had engaged this guy to do the work and had written a check for $5,000 and then was told, oh, your check didn't clear, I need another check, and gave a second check.
Oh.
Unfortunately. I actually was walking around the neighborhood after this guy in this red truck had come in front of my house, and I saw the red truck, and right away, what I noticed, because I was not seeing a license plate on the front or the back of the truck, which right away told me there's something real suspicious about
Yeah.
this individual. So
Now
just
that-
a word of caution, if people come to your house, don't
Yes.
do work, show up on
That's a
Friday.
good point. There are people that will come physically to your home in a vehicle, in groups, whatever, selling whatever, peddling at the door. So most of the cities, I'm not, 100% on all the cities in the county, but I know for sure in Oxnard and other cities in the county, you have to have a peddler's permit to go door to door, and you have to wear it, and it's got your photo, you've been fingerprinted or whatever. There's a process to do that. And then they have to have a business license, and if they're going to do like work on your property, they have to have a contractor's license, and they should be showing you all those things up front. And you think they're professional, so maybe they should have a brochure with their contractor license on it.
Yeah.
You can take that to your computer and go to the contractor state licensing board, run the number, and see if it comes back, because they'll steal other people's license numbers. So and that's when someone in person is when I would call the police.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
Because-
that's an old scam that's been going on.
And not
for
only that, if they
decades.
realize some neighborhoods that older folks live in, often like retirement homes, maybe they're in an over 55 area, or maybe they're not, like in Oxnard out by the beach. Every other house is a vacation rental. So they could be checking if no one answers, and they're actually going to burglarize those places. So it's not just they're scamming, but they're also doing all kinds of other crimes, potentially, prowling the neighborhood, basically. But they're, also happen to be con artists. So if they do talk to someone, they're going to steal from them that way. So that's definitely one I would call the police on. So I think we covered all the things in this room already. We're done. Oh. But just so yes, ma'am.
Comes to us and so forth, to call the police, but I understand the police doesn't do anything unless there's been a crime committed.
Well, it would be a crime if they don't have the city permit to be going door to door. Yeah.
Not too long ago, we had a group of individuals that were going around who were selling things and so and asking for money. And I didn't call the police, but I called somebody in our neighborhood that patrols around, and they didn't do anything about it.
Well, you might have to tell the dispatcher some key things, like, aren't they supposed to have a peddler's permit from the city? Because, they're dealing with all day long traffic accident calls, robberies, violent crimes, various things like that. There aren't as many calls for service related to those types of things. And if you kind of have to jar their memory of, oh, yeah, isn't our city having business licenses for people? They're coming door to door. I think they might be, like my neighbors at work all day. They could be snooping around to break in. I think they're really prowling. Like, you got to pump it up a bit to get them out there, but it's worth it. And whenever I had to work patrol after I had so much experience with fraud, I had a few calls for service in neighborhoods with these peddlers, and, they would flee from the police, I'd catch these guys and I'd be like, all right, and then they'd act like they weren't doing anything wrong. I'm like, well, where's your peddler's license? Oh, our boss has it. He dropped us off. Well, let's call him. And, I would do a full investigation right there and check them all out. They didn't even have any ID with them, of course. So, like it's worth it for the officers to stop those people and contact them because number one, then they know, oh, if we come to this neighborhood, those people are calling the police and the police are actually going to bug us. So we don't want to go to that neighborhood anymore. Right? It wasn't productive and they could have got arrested. Like, what if someone had a warrant or they did something dumb and the police officer arrested them for something? You know how police are, they always think of something to arrest people for. So, like that could happen to them. Or their boss shows up in the van and the registration's expired. Now they tow the van away. And, like we do stuff, police do stuff all the time to make it hard for these people to carry on their activities. Sometimes it is hard to get the police out there, but once they're there, they have a curious mindset. They're going to start being like, oh, okay, I think this guy's up to no good, so they'll figure it out. Yeah. So just so you know, I covered as many of the types of scams. They basically break down into romance scams. That one's really bad in terms of getting people involved in like a long-term scam. But what you should know is that any one of the types of scams can easily transition into another type of scam once they get you on the hook. So if someone got in the first one that often happens that people might lose a small amount of money, like under 1,000, could be a grandchild in trouble scam, right? You probably heard of that. And then they get a little bit of money. Well, then they call you back later, and now it's something else. Now they're the IRS, or something. And then sometimes people have squashed a few scams and they're now like on the warpath to get the FBI to investigate or get the bank to reimburse their money. And they're telling, I'm reporting you to the police and all this. Well, now they start a scam where they're like, we're going to help you get your money back from the scammers. So it always flows. I didn't put work from home scams up here because you're older adults, so maybe you're not interested in working anymore. But younger folks will fall for the work from home scam. And I've seen those turn into romance scams because they'll like lose money and get in trouble. A lot of times the younger folks actually get in trouble with the police from these work from home scams because they don't realize that they're moving things along and helping the scammer somehow. And then they get in trouble. So then the next scammer calls them and says, they'll be like, they already know the person, like they're taking notes. They know how to cite, what people's weaknesses are. Everyone has a weakness. They'll find it. So then they'll find, this person's lonely or whatever. So they'll match them up with maybe if it's a woman, they'll get a man to call and they'll say, hey, did you work for this place and get in trouble? Well, so did I. And they strike up a friendship and then it becomes a romance scam. So it's really tricky, but the one I see a lot of older folks fall for and get taken for a lot of money is the investment scams, right? Or sweepstakes or lottery. Just like if you want to play a lottery, go down and to the local store and buy a lottery ticket. If you want to gamble, go to the casino. If you want to do investments, then hire a licensed investment firm. Do not fall for these get rich quick or prize winning things. It's just a scam. Healthcare scams also important for Medicare, and I have another slide on that, and we'll cover some of that in a moment. Oh, these are just some graphics about romance scams. Usually those are online, but they can also be on phone and texting. And they're scammers using the computer the whole time because computers make work efficient and they're just working. So they'll text people they'll know what time zone the victim's in. So they'll text them, "Good morning, darling, and good night. I hope you sleep well." And, it's like the scammers are just rotating their shift and they can do all these things from a computer. How do they find their victims? They mine out the social media presence. So you got to be careful with that. If you're using any kind of social media, like maybe you use it to keep up with your kids or grandkids, and share pictures and stuff with family, just be mindful that those accounts can be compromised, and even the people you're networking with, like your family members or friends, can also be compromised. Now they're sending you messages and you think it's Sally from your old high school friend you found on Facebook, but Sally's account got hacked and now it's a scammer taking over her account. So just be very careful. And you always want to verify everything and anything before you ever give your information out or send money. So key takeaway, you don't recognize a phone number, don't answer the call. And most of the time the carriers will have a feature you can set up for free so it doesn't even ring when it's an unknown caller and they have to state their business before you even know the person's calling you. That's a good feature. I just added it. Sometimes I don't get my calls that I needed, though. I notice it can take up to a week for some of them to come through. But I'm like, why didn't you email me too? Most businesses, they will. But anyway, don't click on embedded links. That's how the text scams start. Clicking on something, it installs something, and now they get access to your computer. Trust your instincts. Just remember, these things can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter what kind of career you had. You could have been like the president, CEO of some big company. You could be a judge. You could be anybody. You could be a teacher. You could have been a tech person yourself. These scams can happen to anybody. And the scammers, they study psychology, so they know how to find your weak point or be charming or make friends with you. And then they put on pressure. They know that people, especially older folks, get more amped up when there's an emergency going on. So they try to make you get in that mindset of, oh, this has to happen now. Got to be quick. Can't forget. Got to do it. And they might try to act like they're doing you a favor, like marketing 101, sales techniques. Just remember, you didn't solicit this, so get out of it as quick as you can. And what happens if a person starts falling for scams and they get you under their thumb, they turn to threats quickly, very quickly. And I have a lot of recordings I used to use for my cases where people would record phone calls with scammers, or actually their adult children started recording the phone calls. And the scammers were being very threatening and very rude. Initially, they'd be all nice. And then as soon as the person would not want to write that check or whatever, they would get really scary and mean. So how do the scammers get funds? They'll take money any way they can. A big red flag would be if someone wants you to go buy gift cards. I don't know if that's still a thing. I think it probably is, though.
I get gift card things during the year.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure I hit on the healthcare scams because this is kind of more pressing recently. and definitely for older folks. So there could be miracle cures, right? We get chronic conditions, and it seems like the doctors don't have any answers for a lot of our issues. And then, you find something, maybe you're on your Facebook looking at your friends from high school or college or your grandkids, and there's ads popping up, and they want to help you with whatever maybe you were Googling because remember, all that AI information is available. So like, I have a foot problem, right? So I'm Googling about how I could fix this foot problem. And then I'm on Facebook, and now I got all these ads talking about all these cures, right? So you could click on there and you end up in the middle of it. It's a scam in the sense that someone's taking your money and they're not giving you what you wanted, even though you did click on it, right? Then there's Affordable Care Act scams, like they're offering a health insurance, but they're just taking money and you're not getting insurance. Okay, right? And then there's this is a big one, like Medicare related scams, hospice scams. They're signing you up for something that maybe you need, but maybe you don't need it right now. But they're getting it, or maybe you're not getting it. Maybe it's arriving. Like all of a sudden you have all this medical equipment, or maybe it's your relative or a neighbor's getting all this medical equipment they don't actually need right now. Someone's using their account to charge all these things. They got the credentials for the account, and they're just getting like paid, for that. You don't actually need it. Well, what's the problem with it? Well, then when you do need it, Medicare is going to say, but you just got this, 18 months ago. And now you can't get it when you actually need it. Okay. And like someone going on hospice early is a problem, because that means the doctors will not treat anything that's like, so if you had someone at home, they'll come, and they even come door to door for these things sometimes. And they'll say, they get data breaches. So they know there's someone in the home that's not doing well. Maybe they have cancer or some other serious condition, and they offer hospice services. But, that should be coming as a referral from your doctor, because once a person goes on hospice, they can't get improving services. Like, I don't know, now something else comes up and they try to go get help with that. Like, I don't know, ingrown toenails. I don't know. Now the doctor isn't going to be able to help them with that necessarily, because they're on hospice, or they can't do the cancer treatment. The next cancer treatment they can't get because they went on hospice, because there's rules about that. And you can only have hospice so long, and it's like, these are scams that hurt people. The scammers are getting money out of it because they're getting money from Medicare, like that we all paid into, and they're taking the money for the services, but they're not actually delivering, or if they are delivering, it's something that's not needed right now, and then it causes problems. So what do you do? The main thing on those, which I think they're so dangerous for people, is check your benefit statements. Like once a month, you're going to check to avoid identity theft and scams. You got to check your bank statements, your financial records, maybe put a reminder to do it once a month, whatever day of the month, go through, pay your bills, or the day before, maybe do your check of all your statements, right? Include your medical insurance benefit statements in that check, not just your bank statements, and that also your medical records, because you'll be surprised. People will have charges. They're like, wait, I didn't get that service. I didn't see the doctor that day. Someone stole the credentials in a data breach or something. So then you have to report that and get that straightened out. Make sure you don't delay medical treatment if that did happen to you, like report that fraud so you can keep going and getting treatment or get treatment for your loved one. So even if the risk you run if you talk to them and never give them money is they're getting information about you, and then they'll do some sort of identity theft, or they'll come back with an even better, more enticing scam because they've learned about you. So that's another reason not to talk to them. So money muling is when you do things to help the scammer, even though you don't realize it. That's another risk you run if you talk to them. They might trick you into doing things, and now you're the one getting in trouble. And this could be the work from home thing that a lot of younger folks could fall for, or older folks who just want to supplement their income too, work from home things, opening a bank account under someone else's direction so that money can go in there and then out of there. Well, that's just money laundering. They're taking money they scam from other victims and filtering it through a clean bank account. That's a crime. Letting someone use your bank account or debit card, that's a common thing a lot of lower income people will do, because people will be like, hey, can I use your debit card for a couple days and I'll leave an extra $50 in your account when I'm done. And people will do it because they don't have much money in their bank account. It's the time of month they've spent all their money that month, and they don't really have anything in there, so they think they're not hurting anything and they're getting $50. Well, they're helping someone who's doing money laundering crimes. And like mailing things, that's other work from home. Like sometimes these are like checks that scam victims wrote. They arrive in these boxes and then people box them up and send them on. So it's just another form of money laundering, but without using a bank directly. So again, key takeaway: do not answer the calls if you don't know who they are. Don't click on links in emails and stuff if you don't know what it is or who it's from. And pay attention when your computer says this might be dangerous. Those things are there for a reason. And now I think most banks are often sending you emails about scams, or on your statements you'll see, or when you log in your account, they have like a banner running about scams. Pay attention to that stuff. There's so many reminders out there about scams. Don't treat the reminders about scams as spam. Pay attention to them, and then spam out all the real spam so you don't have to see it all the time. There's a bunch of online resources, but I don't know, will I be able to open any of them?
Oh, yeah. You want to click on the links?
Yeah, because this is what we do if someone's a victim of a scam. It sounds like, I don't know what they're reporting. We were going to talk about reporting and what's going on. I know APS is involved with you said. Yeah, go ahead on there. So if for some reason you or someone you know got involved with a scam, the IC3 Internet Complaint Center is the best place to report it. If it's an in-person situation, like someone shows up in person, you call your local police, because now you have a suspect who is there in their jurisdiction, a physical description. You might have some other identifying information, maybe a license plate or a vehicle description, a direction of travel, all the things the police need to find a person and say a crime happened in their jurisdiction. Huh? Oh, maybe it has to happen. Oh,
It's on the computer, but it's
okay.
up here for some reason.
Well, what we could do is maybe make a little document with all the links to send to everybody. They can click on them at home. Yeah. So that's the Internet Crime Complaint Center. And these go to the FBI. So that's where you report phone, online scams. You can't, if you lost money, you could report it to your police department to document it as a loss to claim as a tax deduction. Documentation only. Local police are going to say, well, the victim's in my jurisdiction, but the suspect could be anywhere in the world. We don't know where they are. That's when you call the FBI. So this is how you do it. Internet Crime Complaint Center, ic3.gov. All you have to remember, ic3.gov. That's to report scams to the FBI. So you would click on file a complaint, and then it lists all the different types of scams, and you pick which one, and then you give all kinds of information. We won't go through it. Yeah. So the Federal Trade Commission is another place to report. It is still there. But what the Federal Trade Commission also has is a lot of resources. So a lot more like if you had questions about something, or you wanted to know about something, or you wanted to find out, you know, what's going on with an issue, like they have consumer alerts. So you could read about the most recent scams. You could find out about any scammers that got in trouble for something. Also, the Federal Trade Commission, I don't know if they still do because so much has changed, but they would do a lot of class action lawsuits. So if it was a legit company, but the company was acting like a scammer, and the company's in the United States. So they're like, you know, not really doing what they said they were going to do. Like there have been a lot with reverse mortgages and insurances and home warranties and those sorts of things, timeshares. So the FTC attorneys would do the class action civil suits. And if you filed a complaint on there, you could get part of that. And then you might, and I have known people that would get money back after the lawsuit settled. So that's kind of a good resource as well for reporting. And you get a little more info when you report there. The FBI is like just the facts, man. It's like, feels like Dragnet. Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, it still exists. I thought it got canceled, but it's still here. And this is where you go when you have problems with your bank or your financial companies, credit card companies, credit unions, those types of things. You can find out what the rules and regulations are. You can also file a complaint against your bank, because I've had cases where an older person, the bank sold, like one bank took over another bank. And so all their accounts got transferred over, and there had to have been a data breach. There was people all over in various states on the, you know, account holder information on checks. There was like so many, but it was the same account from this bank. And there was a data breach clearly during the transfer, and they were cashing all these checks, counterfeit checks. And the person reported it to the bank, and the bank said they were only going to honor the last 10 checks. But the law says you have to honor all fraud with it reported within 90 days. Because the bank would have been out. This person had multiple bank accounts with a lot of money in them. She was a retired realtor. And it would have been $300,000. And they don't want to pay that. They only want to pay her $30,000. But the checks were clearly fraudulent. Like, yeah. So this is the place you would go when you know your bank didn't do their job, and you know you did what you were supposed to do, which was report within so many days. And then you can look up on here to see how many days. some things like wire transfers might be something the bank could be responsible for. But a lot of times just filing this will get the bank, like Zelles, debit card fraud, credit card fraud. A lot of times just filing on here, the banks will suddenly honor your fraud claim that they were saying they weren't going to honor or was under some weird review forever. So this is a good site to know about. Yeah. So this is another federal government site. We don't know how long it'll be here, but it's here now. And it's kind of the clearinghouse for all kinds. Maybe you could scroll down a little past the. So this is a good place to go to get information about how to get involved really with more details, like especially if you have a complex situation, you're trying to help somebody else. This is a good resource to go to get more in-depth information and connect with different organizations that could help. And then the last one is the California version. And this one is good because it tells you about the different agencies in California and what they do. So if you scroll down, you'll see the one for like the Medi-Cal fraud we talked about. Like that goes along with the Medicare. So you go to the federal one for medical care, but this would be for Medi-Cal. Then the Financial Protection and Innovation Office, they handle any investment frauds. So if it's like someone's going to invest your money, but they don't, maybe they're not even a licensed investor, that's the agency that handles it. And then you have Consumer Affairs. So other licensed people that may or may not have a license, if they're breaking the rules or they don't have a license. And then Department of Insurance, same thing, like trying to sell insurance and then you don't actually get insured. Those are the California ones. So, and then we also have the California, I mentioned it earlier, Contractors Licensing Board. There's probably a link somewhere in this website to get to them as well. But like people that say they're going to give you a new roof and they don't, or the solar and all that stuff. So, and even if, like, I would recommend checking those sites before you engage with business. Like that's doing your homework. Like you don't just get 3 quotes. You also make sure whoever you're going to hire actually has a license and is insurance and bonded to do that particular job before you sign any contracts. And that is all I have, except I'm here to answer questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for all of this. I noticed that most of these options you have up here are for people who've already experienced some kind of fraud or something. And I'm a little more interested right now in how to prevent a lot of things in the first place. I thought you might have some experience on some of these. I have 4 or 5 things here, for example, that you might be able to comment on and tell us what you would advise us to do. The one that's really out of date and really been useless to me is the do not call registry.
It is useless.
I do want to tell you though that there is, a lot of this is because there are data brokers out there
Yeah.
who accumulate and share to one another and sell to one another everything they can collect about each one of us. And I noticed that
Really.
the state of California now has something called privacy
Oh, we did?
protection.
I'll fix it.
The state now has this California Privacy Protection Agency, which is offering on their website to give you a chance to delete and request an opt-out program.
Oh, yeah.
That's dropped.
Drop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I suspect that that's legitimate for legitimate data brokers, but there's a whole bunch of them out there
Mhm.
seem to be doing that sort of thing anyway
Mhm.
and not subject to the law until somebody reports them.
So who in this room thinks that some computer programmer person in North Korea does not have all their personal information? Because I'm sure that they have mine. So just assume all your personal information has already been exposed. Now, you probably, like me, probably get a lot of these notifications that there was a data breach with such and such. And, I'm very suspicious of those because they usually come from like attorneys' offices and I don't know them. So you have to look up, like, kind of do your homework and then Google that settlement to make sure it's real before you click on any links, right? And then they offer you like this monitoring stuff. And then when you go and you do it, because you've verified it's real and true, and then you do the monitoring, and I've probably done the monitoring 16 times. So different ones are expiring, but I still have more with other ones. And then they check the dark web for your information. And now you see exactly what's been exposed, right? So, like, and you'll see like asterisks in there. Those asterisks are not to protect you from seeing your own information. It's just they know, like, well, social security numbers are 16 digits. So you can see which of your 16 digits have been exposed. Does that make sense? And like, your email's got a certain formula at whatever dot whatever. So you'll see asterisks, but you'll see which parts of your email have been exposed or the whole thing.
You mentioned the dark web. Are we able to access and find out what might be on there regarding ourselves?
Well, that's what these services do. So I never pay for any monitoring services because they're always having data breaches and they always offer it for a certain period of time for free. If you paid for it, you wouldn't get any more than what they have to give you for free. Like, who hasn't been in a data breach? By now, everyone has. So everyone in this country, like other countries, people probably not, because they just don't have enough money that's worth stealing. Like, or the value of their currency is not worth stealing. But people here in the US, our dollars, fortunately, still strong enough that bad guys around the world want to steal dollars still. I mean, we kind of want it to stay that way, right? But it's sort of, the downside of having a strong currency is that people want to steal it from us. And they're usually in other countries. Do they have people in our country participating in these organized criminal, rings? Yes, they do. Or they travel here to do it. And, if they're able to, but sure. So the number one way is don't answer your phone if you don't know who's calling. Get your cell phone company to help you do that. I haven't done the drop yet. It's on my list to do. Like I said, like all these things pop up. Yeah, they're legit. Next thing you know, that got data breach too. So,
Do you have any experience with services like LifeLock?
that's a paid one. I'm not going to pay for what I can get for free. They're not going to do anything for you. The only time I would say, well, if you want to do that, go ahead, is if you have been a real serious victim of ID theft and it's going to be really difficult to unwind. If you have that kind of situation, then, and you just don't feel like you have the capacity to be able to unwind it yourself, that might be a circumstance where you want to hire a company like that to help you do it. Because it takes a lot of effort to unwind a really bad ID theft situation, where they've opened a lot of accounts You have to run your credit record multiple times, and you don't, you could end up having to pay because you have to run it so often to keep up with all these people. And then you're constantly having to contact those companies, car dealerships, mortgage companies, and everybody saying, I'm a victim of ID theft and proving it every time. It's a lot of work.
Ask you about, as a preventive measure, what you think about putting a freeze on your credit bureaus?
Everyone should have freezes. Definitely, 100%. Yeah. Freeze them all. TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. You log in, you make a little account on each one, and then you freeze your credit. And then if you need to apply for something, like you got to refi your house or you need a car loan or a new credit card, then you even actually getting yourself a new cell phone account with a new company, they run your credit. So you may have to unfreeze it, but they'll call it a thaw or something. And you go in and you set the dates, like I'm going to, thaw it today so people can run my credit file, and then it goes right back the next day. And I always tell those companies, I go, all right. I mean, they'll stay on the phone with you while you unfreeze it, run it. And, you're on the phone longer to do some of the things that you might need to do, but at least your credit file's frozen. Yeah. And that prevents 99% of ID theft, crimes like opening accounts and getting car loans. And
We've had a credit frozen for a number of years. And it's so, when we go around to these different workshops and so forth, credit freeze is rarely spoken of. And I'm usually up there and say, let me tell you about credit freezing. Because they're trying to sell a program that you pay $60 a year or whatever, and they monitor your credit for you. Why do you have to spend that when if you freeze your credit up front, you don't need this other service?
exactly.
Can you just repeat that for the mic?
Well, it's that, like those LifeLock companies, they want to charge you to monitor your credit and help you catch ID theft. Well, if you freeze your credit files, there won't be ID theft to monitor anything about. You should still check your credit file periodically. And I use the Credit Karma phone app. It's free, and it does TransUnion and Equifax. So I can, even if I want to, I can pull my whole credit report on the phone through Credit Karma. And then Experian has their own app to do it too. I can't freeze and unfreeze from there. You have to go directly from a computer. You can't do it on your phone. You have to go to a computer to freeze and unfreeze. So, and log into the credit bureau's site. Whereas these other apps you could run from your phone just to check your credit file and your credit score, you can do that yourself for free. I mean, they have a lot of ads, so they're always trying to, and they send me like little, whatever, clickbait every day. Oh, you could qualify for this credit card. Just whatever.
We've hit our time. So
Okay.
Officially end us. If you hand me. Thank you. So everybody can hear me. Thank you so much to our speaker. I think that's the key. Don't answer the phone. Just don't answer. Don't click any embedded links. Here at Senior Concerns, we've had a situation where staff was getting text messages that said that they were coming from our president and that she needed them to stop at the store and pick up gift cards. And staff wants to jump when they hear that their boss is asking for something. So we were pretty close there. And then we realized, take a moment, but it catches you in that moment of like, oh my gosh, somebody needs something from me. So this is just really important reminders for all of us. So thank you to all of you who attended here and at home. I can email out the slides with the links if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
And again, this recording will be available to watch after. So thank you all so much and have a good evening.